So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over here to Jason in a couple of seconds here. One of the big pieces I love about this is the interaction that you have with the desktop, and Jason will go into some details about how that beats down. But uh, we have it built out with Intra ID internally for our namesake here internally. I have a IPA, which is a Island Private Access connector internally for us. So I'm able to utilize everything that I have back in our Kansas City office here at home in Boise, like I'm in the office, which has been great. But I appreciate everybody's time today. And then Jason, I'll hand it over here to you, bud.
All right, thanks, Christian. I haven't heard "rah rah shish kebab" before. What does that mean? I haven't heard that one. That's a good one.
That was a no longer so back in the day when we first started IGEL, we have to package applications with the Linux script and grab a custom partition and make it the RBZ tool. So it used to be a nightmare. So it was more of our tier leader squad there going, yay.
Gotcha, gotcha. Very good. Well, let me just run through a couple of just the setup slides are really what we're all about. If nobody's heard of Island, that's fine as well. That we're 5 years old, so certainly not your fault. But it is a new space and it's a new concept for sure. And the reality is, we use this thing every day called a browser, and it's something that is free. We don't have any support for it. It is something that we just kind of showed up on our desktop one day. We started using it. And the question is, can you run your business from within a browser? But today it pretty much is being run through a browser. Um, and of course, with Island, we're going to give you support. We have this fantastic user experience. We have all kinds of wonderful features built in, which I'll show you as well. And we're seeing a lot of, large organizations move toward a fully managed operating system with obviously a fully managed browser running inside of it. And iGel and Island, I can't think of a more perfect combination, especially for security and usability and manageability. There's just nothing close because, here we have this fully functional, read-only, fully managed, operating system with a browser that you have to sign into because that's the identity part. So the identity comes with the browser. We link that to your identity provider, whatever that might be. And then of course, we've built out a full platform at this point. This is a browser that's controlled through centralized management, just like iGel is. But the control is now what you're actually doing inside of the work, right? What you're doing as far as, extensions and malware and, DLP. We want to make sure DLP, the data doesn't leave the environment. So now you have this browser concept where you can make sure that the sensitive data that you don't want leaving and being copying and pasted over somewhere else, or maybe downloaded somewhere else and re-uploaded somewhere else, all of those boundaries are respected. And then, like Christian said, the networking, that's the big thing. So we've always really struggled with the networking. And that's why, generally we go into VDI. Well, one of the reasons, but we generally go into VDI, Citrix, or, Horizon or whatever it might be. And a lot of these iGel clients, that's basically their job is to go into these environments. But it's because you got in there and then you had access to everything that you needed from a company perspective. But what if that networking was just built in local to the device, to the browser itself? And that's what we had to do. So we actually built in a full network that only Island can use. And that includes private access, that includes cloud, cloud proxy type access to your SaaS apps. And it immediately creates a closed loop system to, Office 365 or Salesforce or Workday or whatever might have a lot of your sensitive data that you have in the cloud that, they're keeping it safe. And we know SSL is keeping the transport safe. But it's when it hits that consumer browser, whether it's in VDI, whether it's outside of VDI, that's where it gets decrypted. And at that moment, that data goes wherever it wants. And so that's where Island really starts to step in, is to say, okay, well, before we even show you that data, like we're the browser, we show you things. That's the job of a browser, is to display content from a server, but we don't have to display that content if we think that you should not see it. If we think there's sensitive data there, we can make that decision in real time. Gartner believes that by 2030, that the enterprise browser will be the ubiquitous standard for end user compute. They think this is obviously where a lot of that work will be done. It makes sense. A lot of the apps are being built there. We're not building a lot of Power Builder apps anymore. Visual Basic, Clipper. I'm an old Clipper guy way back, from Stone Age. But anyway, this is where it's at. It's really the browser. That's where the new apps are being developed. And of course, I invite you to go look at the Gartner Peer Insights reviews. These are your peers. These are CIOs and CISOs of a lot of organizations that they just can't get enough of Island, especially in the category that we were kind of pigeoned into, which is the SASE category, Security Services Edge category. There is no enterprise browser category. You probably don't have a budget for an enterprise browser, and that's fine. This is something that you would start to collaborate with your peers, and it would be something that would be kind of for everybody. And that's generally how we're doing our deals. Nobody really has a line item, although they're starting to. And so, we will talk about business continuity, disaster recovery. A browser is a good alternative for that. You can start to bring your systems back up slowly with Island. We can maybe get collaboration going and get, your SaaS properties safely accessed, even from systems that may not necessarily be on the network or, maybe BYO devices to start to bring those up. And it really does represent a true zero trust approach. What I'll show you today is, this is true individualized access to an individualized resource. And that's not what VDI is, right? That's not what we've done historically with a fully managed laptop, for instance, right? If you have a fully managed laptop, you have one password, you get in, you get all your apps. If you have VDI, you get in, you get all your apps, you're on the network. A true zero trust approach is, limited access, one icon for one user, as long as your device is okay, as long as your network is okay, as long as you're from the right part of the world, then we'll let you in. And then we may not let you do all the functions of that application, which, by the way, can also be controlled at a browser level. So you think about it, that could be extremely low, a low level of granularity to any of your key applications, including the presentation layer of those applications. So here's an example of, the business continuity. You might have Citrix Workspace as an icon today in your IGEL. You might have Island as a backup and potentially even a replacement, of that in the future. But here's what it looks like. I'm going to also go to the live demo as well. This might be a homepage that you have in Island. And notice this is set up for kind of a workspace mode, we call it. Usually it looks like a browser. In this case, it doesn't. It looks just like a homepage, and you have, your icons with all of your entitlements on there. You may want to pull up your Outlook, and that's going to pull up in a PWA. You might have other applications. I've got Teams going over there with Viva. You can open up, SSH prompts. You can open up your Salesforce, whatever it might be. This is the portal to all of those apps. But you might notice some of the data is obfuscated, right? This data is hidden down below because we decided to do that at that presentation layer. Teams works great natively through the browser. This is something that's always plagued, the VDI world, right? So what do? Well, we send everybody through VDI, which then egresses through US East 1, and then we have to worry about the audio and the video. So we have these helpers that get added on. So those go a different route, and then the VDI goes the other route. Well, none of that applies. Zoom, Teams, all of those just go natively to the closest server possible, right? So however fast the internet could get you there, that's how you egress, and that's the speed that you're going to expect with Island.